Talk about the role that energy plays in our national security, global security. In your testimony, you advocate for an expanded view of energy security that broadly encompasses the needs of the United States, our allies, and trading partners. You go on to say the crisis in Ukraine highlighted the vulnerability of our European allies to increasing reliance on a single dominant supplier for much of its energy supplies. You explained it's not only true in regard to natural gas, but also crude oil, your words. You cite the European Commission's finding that some European refineries are optimized for using Russian crude, and the EU refining capacity is increasingly in the hands of a shrinking number of Russian owners. So I'm encouraged the administration continues to approve U.S. liquefied natural gas exports, but I question about the administration why it seems to be dithering when it comes to crude oil exports. Do you agree the U.S. crude oil exports would benefit the energy security of our allies and trading partners? And if not, why not?
Well, sir, again, first, I think it's important that we do distinguish, we've had this discussion before, I think, in terms of the natural gas and oil situations in the United States being quite different. In natural gas, we are, of course, we with some Canadian imports, although those have gone down too, we are essentially self-sufficient and will very shortly start the exports with LNG out of the lower 48. On oil, it's still very different, where we are a 7 million barrel a day importer of crude oil, a much greater exporter now of oil products, of course. So the specific issue raised, as you well know, it's in the responsibility of the Department of Commerce to make that policy judgment. But it is also true that recent studies, including the last summary study of the EIA on the congressionally requested studies on exports, show that the impacts for the next 10 years or so are likely to be pretty modest, to put it mildly, in terms of exports.
Well, because I guess I'd ask if that's your litmus test, if crude oil imports have to get to zero or near zero before the administration would support crude oil exports, because we all know that much of our nation's refining capacity really was built to handle heavy crudes that are imported from outside the United States, not what's being produced in the United States right now as a result of technological advances and with fracking and how we get to this oil. So it's very different in terms of what our refining capacity is. But is that your litmus test? We have to get to zero of imports before we can export, which is essentially a different product.
No, sir, I did not say that. Of course, we should emphasize again, we are exporting, I think it's now 4 million barrels, maybe a bit more of product, and that goes to South America and Europe. So they are getting the benefit of our increased production. That's the first point. I know I forgot my second point now. The product.